Hi, team. Welcome to the Escape Podcast for Star Wars The Old Republic. Coming up, we talk about light and dark side alignment. But first, a couple bits of news and a shout out to our guild, Alea Iacta Est, on Jedi Covenant. Our broadcast aspect today is EPC 144. Hi, at 144. Me? I'm really light side, buddy. I guess, well, except for the astromechs, so maybe gray. With me, as always, is Seema. Hi, Seema. How's it going?
It's going great. I'm actually also light side, not that I jump in and save the, well, you're not doing anything bad to the astromechs. We keep saying, so
Yeah,
yeah,
really.
we'll leave that. I'm doing great. I'm actually welcoming spring where I am. The weather has started to get warm and it's been sunny and I don't know. It's my favorite kind of weather where it's warm during the day, but it's cool at night and it was sunny. We've had a few nice rainy days because we need the rain and the combination of the summer and the rain, you get that sort of ozone smell, which I really, really love. So, yeah, that has been fun. So it's been a good week.
Excellent.
And on our regular ops night, we did some pub ops, which we'd never do. We haven't done in like 2 years. So
Yeah,
that was fun too.
right, because it was the EV week for EV as the featured hard mode, in which all guilds that are running ops run EV over and over on every character that they can, because
Yes.
hard mode EV is relatively not hard and a good opportunity to grab some extra 224 gear, which we did.
Yep. So we ran it on our regular team, which is on the imp side, and then we ran it on our pub side, which I had my yeah, which made us scrabble or scramble for gear, didn't it?
Yes, it made us play Scrabble, which was quite
Yes.
amusing. I
Yes, pub side scrabble.
I did have a problem because my pub side character is a tank, but we had two tanks and we wanted to keep our same role, so I needed a DPS on the pub side, and my DPS characters aren't tuned up on the Republic side, so I had to pick one, and then I did scramble around a little bit and try to figure out which one I wanted to play and take through there, and I ended up taking
And it
my Vanguard, which is usually my tank, and respecking it to DPS and making sure I had enough accuracy. It was
and at
fun.
one point didn't you say, "Oh, I'll just play on my XYZ," and it was an imp character?
Yes, I was trying to. I wanted to play with my commando because I was playing on my merc, and I wanted to switch over to my commando. And I thought I had my commando geared out, except it was missing augments in most of the slots, and it was missing relics completely. I don't know why. I just had the two Rakghoul relics. So then then I got frustrated, and I went back. I was first looking at my Vanguard, then I looked at the commando. Then I'm like, forget it. I'm just gonna play my Sork, and I logged into my Sork. I'm like, where
Right.
is everybody? So that did not work.
Right, and we're all just waiting for him. It didn't register for anyone he said Sork.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're like, "Oh, that's not gonna work."
But yes, EV is always a great operation to run through, and getting 224 gear running through that in hard mode is quite fun. So I ran it on those couple times that we did on the Tuesday on the. Did we run it on Tuesday night also with the MFN night, or did I have a conflict on Tuesday night? No, I was around, and I think we did run it on Tuesday night as well. So
I
maybe I
cannot remember two Tuesdays. I remember this Tuesday, the day we're in Tuesday. I do not remember last Tuesday.
interesting. And then
I only have a slot for one Tuesday in my brain.
so we did the double run on Thursday, and then I ran with the Friday team, and that one, I don't know what character I brought. What did I do on
That might have been
Friday?
your Sork that night, huh?
That was not my Sork.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Peters is right. You had a conference call last Tuesday, so you were there for part of it, or
right. I was
partly
I
there
was
or something.
in, yes. I was in playing but not talking initially. So ran it with the Friday night team as well, which was fun. So lots of
This
EV
kitten is grabbing my headset.
did and then just trying to get through the end of the school year, which is wrapping up. My high school daughter graduated on Sunday. That's completely done. My eighth grade daughter has an event. It's a big deal with the eighth grade because that school went kindergarten through eighth. So there's they've been together for a long time. There's was parent a parent dinner, eighth grader dinner tonight. They have a dance tomorrow night. Graduation is Thursday night, and then there's the whole class is invited to to a party on Friday, and so it's like every night this week there's something for that.
Of course, you told your daughter that you could not do her graduation thing on Thursday night, right?
Because of ops, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll Skype in to the graduation. She can just hold up her phone, and I'll see what's going on, so that'll be fine. But besides graduation and school being out for summer, we do have a couple other bits of news.
Now, an Imperial News Network report.
One of the rewards for the speed run was a trip to London, which is now going to coincide with the Cantina tour that's starting back up and is going to be in London on July 16th. If anyone would like to sponsor Seema and I to go out to London and do some interviews out there, we would be happy to oblige. I love London.
So do I. Let's see, my turn. Okay. So also, don't forget that this month, at the end of the month, from May 26th through to June 5th, there's a clearance sale on character transfers. So 90 cartel coins for a server transfer for your character. So if you've been considering moving a character, that week will be the time to do it.
Yes.
So it starts on May 26th.
Which is this Thursday for people that are listening to the podcast.
Yeah,
It starts in
that's
2
right.
days, and it's only over the
Thursday.
weekend. They gave people a little bit of notice so that the guilds that had an issue and wanted to sort of have an opportunity to coordinate and get everything ready would have that time, and then they're opening a window for people to be able to do their transfers. Remind me, Internet, I have a Marauder that I sent over to another server for a community event that I need to pull back because it's also my artificer.
Is that your artificer?
Yes. So I need to get, and I would like to take advantage of the 90 cartel coins to bring him back.
Does your Marauder have a dark side or a light side, Jasa?
Light side Jasa, which I do want to try out the dark side Jasa. I've heard it's interesting, but I have so many problems trying to go dark side ever.
I ultimately ended up trying it out on YouTube.
So there we go. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. We like to comb through the dev tracker. I noticed a post in there from Ben Irving in a thread in the official forums, which is where everyone was talking about the spreadsheets that they potentially use to play Star Wars The Old Republic. And he thought that whole thread was amusing and posted a comment. And my summary commentary was, yeah, you have to use spreadsheets to play video games. Who wouldn't?
I mean, really, if you're making a list, why wouldn't you put it in a spreadsheet? And that's just the simplest form.
Absolutely. Where's here? Let me open my spreadsheet of Doom.
Oh,
This,
your
what is
spreadsheet
this?
with pivot tables and
Oh, that was the gear that drops off. See, the gear that drops off of all the bosses. That's useful. My trade sheets for 4.0 and 4.1. My characters, crew mission tracking for the heroics with all the timings, start and stop, and notes for each one of them. These are all the tabs along the bottom. So yes, I do the spreadsheets.
I do too. But mine don't look as neat and tidy as yours. I would never let someone else look at my spreadsheets because, yeah,
Now we have
they
to see
grow
them.
over time and they become ugly.
Now we must see them. What else do we have?
There is something else. Oh yes. This is the last week for the free one chapter trial of Kotfi, and what that is you don't have to subscribe, but you can play the chapter one. You have to meet us. You have to have clicked that thing where you agree to receive SWTOR email. But you have until May 30th to hop on and play that chapter one for free. It's short, so it's not a big time commitment, and it'll give you a flavor of what Kotfi is. So recommend.
Yes, it is relatively short, and it's mostly the intro trailer and cinematics, but it's still a fun thing to see if you haven't seen it yet, and who knows, could make you interested in checking out the rest of Knights of the Fallen Empire. And at this point, remember, subscribing for 1 month will get you all of the chapters up to XII. Well, if you subscribe
How many eyes? Yes,
XIV, if you subscribe by June 1st, and you will get XIV.
that's right. And XV.
And well, if you stay subscribed for another month, then you'll get XV.
No, you just have to be subscribed by June 1 to get both of them.
Oh, they're both coming in June. Yes, I didn't.
Yeah.
So there's a point of news. Why I didn't catch the deal with that. Why are we getting 2 chapters in June?
Mm,
Yeah, I didn't.
I don't
see-
know, but I just read the
You're right.
thing.
I did see that as well. So if anyone has intel on why we're getting 2 chapters in June, that would be interesting. Maybe something.
Probably everyone in the chat room knows why, and we're just like idiots.
Well, that goes without saying. But maybe they have something bigger coming in August or September, and they need chapter 16 to be out by July so that they can transition
Well,
in August. Or
yeah,
something.
I mean, I think that was always the goal for chapter 16, but then they missed a month in there somewhere. Like they
Or
started in
started it-
February
they
instead of
started it.
January, and I guess they still want to finish in June, so
Okay. In Guild.
that's how I took it anyway.
Yeah, probably. Something like that. In Guild and community news, we have quite a few things going on in our guild, Alea Iacta Est. We continuing to focus a little bit on conquest, so that's pretty interesting. I don't know how many. Well, it seems like plenty of guilds still are, because there, as we saw last week, there were tons of
lot.
points getting thrown up on the boards. Every week,
Yeah.
there's still significant impact on all of the planets in terms of people going after conquest points. So it's still a thing, and it's still evidence that guilds are relatively active across, both Imperial and Republic. So our Arvachet, one of our officers, is sort of leads the charge in conquest for us right now. We don't have a ton of people focused on it right now, but we do always invade a planet, and we do always sort of coordinate some of our guild night activities around what gives conquest points for the people that are trying to go after their conquest targets. We're going to do a little bit. Well, Tabora's Courtyard tonight was part of that.
Yes.
We are continuing to do things like GSF and our ops nights and our 4 ops teams and that kind of thing as well. So jump in, and any other guilds, if you have this kind of news or guild events and that kind of thing that you'd like us to call out on the podcast, I would be happy to do that. So let us know. Anything else that you have in terms of commentary on how was the mandatory fun night tonight, Seema?
It was a unraveled tapestry that came together in the end, which is actually kind of not a bad definition of ops in general. But we had a little bit of a rough start, but by the time we finished, we were a well-oiled machine. It was pretty fun.
Excellent.
We did the last 2 fights in EV without anybody dying, no mistakes made on the council that caused us to reset the fight, and nobody falling off platforms. And so it was in spite of having at least one person who hadn't done either of those fights. So
Which is
it was
great.
really good.
And that's my favorite thing, when we've got people that have never done the fights before. So
Yeah, me too.
we're always I saw a thread in Reddit a couple weeks back about people having problems sort of getting kicked out of flashpoints because they don't know the flashpoint. And I rarely comment in other threads in Reddit, but I did comment and reply in this one. And my point was to that particular person and to guilds in general, hey, it's really cool for, I'd recommend you go find a good guild that does this kind of thing. And other guilds out there, I know other guilds do this, and I'd recommend it to any guild. We have at least one night a week where we're making sure that anyone who's never done this kind of stuff before gets, mostly a safe place to come in, check it out, learn it. We make people watch the cinematics. We tell the story. We give everyone instructions, answer any questions, and go through the operations for fun. And I highly recommend that to pick events at least one-off once in a while in your guild to support new people like that, and I think you'll have a good experience doing that. If someone doesn't have a guild and is looking for a guild, Seema, what should they do?
Oh my goodness, if you're not in AIE or you're looking for a guild, our guild is always looking for new members. We're on Jedi Covenant. We are part of a larger gaming community called Alea Iacta Est, which is in several games across the world, not just MMOs, but other types of games as well. We're family friendly, I think I've mentioned before. We have guild in SWTOR both on the Imp side and on the Republic side. If you'd like to find out more about us or what we're about, you can look at the website aie-guild.org. If you'd like to come and join us on Jedi Covenant, that would be awesome. You can catch officers in game by joining the AIE LFO channel, which you would do by typing /cjoin AIE LFO, and evenings are best for that.
Excellent. Sounds great. Hey, is there a way to get through all of this Force stuff quicker?
If you choose the quick and easy path, as Vader did, you will become an agent of evil. Patience.
That was a terrible transition.
I liked it.
You know, that quote, I did think of that quote when I first started playing SWTOR, and I was deciding, am I going to be light side or dark side? I expected, and it's not the case, but I did expect that if I was going to be taking the dark side choices, that it should be faster, and I should be able to level faster, and the quests and the missions should be done faster. I figured it would be like a shortcut. Like,
yeah.
if I just kill this dude, and then I'm done. But if I don't, then I have to like go collect, collect boar skins
And you have to take care of his family, and
yeah, like you have to go do extra work if you're going to be light side. But it would be worth it then if you're going to be light side. But you would need to expect that because the dark side is the quick and easy path. However, that's not the case. Unfortunately, I almost think it would be cool if it was. I think a lot more people would be dark. If that was the case.
Yes, I think so too.
And maybe that's why they don't do that. But that sort of thinking back to light and dark side, and a comment on Twitter from Tetsemi, who's one of the officers of the greater AIE community, one of our key leaders in WoW, actually, who's been playing a lot of Star Wars: The Old Republic with us lately. He asked on...
He's also a spreadsheet guy.
Yeah, a big-time spreadsheet wrangler. He asked on Twitter, hey, what's the deal with light-dark side points? Is there an easy way to get them besides diplomacy, which we'll talk about? And it made me think about light side, dark side, that alignment, and what the deal is with it, and how in some ways it's not so much of a deal, but it is a little bit of piece of the game that has some effect, and we figured we'd walk through it. So if you look at your character sheet, if you haven't noticed, there is... Why is... I have no gear on it. My dude is naked. Of course. Pop open the character sheet, and I have no armor on. Good thing that I did not run Mandatory Fun Night tonight, because I would have done it naked. Anyway, there is an alignment bar on the left of your character sheet, which goes from sort of 10,000 dark to 10,000 light. And there are 5 tiers along the way: light I, light II, light III, light IV, and light V, and the same in dark. And that alignment is your light side, dark side alignment. We'll talk a little bit about the details of why it matters, but here's where you see where you're at. You gain light side and dark side points by playing the game in various ways, and you gain some things as you go up and down this scale. You can go up and down, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the effects of doing that too. So as we get into that, what some of the uses and effects are, Seema, what's your what's your alignment in general? You said you're mostly light side, right?
Yeah, I'm mostly light side. I mean, I've taken a few dark side choices, but usually those dark side choices are ones that correspond to my sense of light side anyway. So, yeah, they don't really count as dark side choices.
I have
Oh,
not.
they don't count as me getting out of my comfort zone at
Yeah,
all.
I I tend, and this was always the case. It was much more the case even at the start of playing Star Wars: The Old Republic. I, at least in my head, sort of role played. Here's Max. This is my dude, and I want to see what he's gonna do, and I want to play him, how I would think he should be, and how I want to play, and how, some of my character in the characters, and I ended up going light side, and I just couldn't really get into or have that much fun with the dark side choices along the way. So I do not have a dark 5 character on any of out of the 20 or so that I've leveled up into the upper levels. I do not have a dark 5 at this point. I guess I should use diplomacy. No, I should pick some dark side choices, I guess. Or I could do the cheater way and just use diplomacy and get dark side. Pick only light side choices in story, but still be dark 5.
That's true. You could do that. Like, I have no problem at all running light side or dark side diplomacy missions. I used to.
Right.
I used to not want to run any dark side ones, which
Right, because you were up here at the 10,000
yeah,
light side
at
points,
the
and
apex.
until I played with it some and saw how easy it was to bounce back, I did. Yeah, I was concerned that if I lost that light 5, that that would sort of suck. But it doesn't, because especially even now, light side and dark side alignment doesn't do all that much in the game, but it does do a few things. So I guess let's walk through some of those things. Seema, do you want to take us through some of the basics, and we can go back and forth and talk about some of them?
First of all, there's titles at each level of lightness and darkness. So if you're if titles appeal to you, then there's a number of them along the way. And I noticed back in the day when I used to do a lot of diplomacy, and you'd be hovering right at the top, and you would do a dark side one, and you would drop down below 5,000 points, and you'd lose your title, and then you would go back up to 5,000 when you turn in the next mission, and you get your title back again. So you can't get up to 5,000, get all the light side titles, and then get down to minus 5,000, get all the dark side titles, because along the way you'll lose all the light side titles.
Interesting. So you do lose those titles. I forgot about that.
Yeah, because I would see them popping off and popping back on again.
And you do get if you go all the way to light 5, and it's probably a similar situation when you go to dark 5. If you go all the way to light 5 and then you drop below it, you do get a title that's called troubled. Because obviously you
okay.
have some sort of internal conflict. So on my diplomat, my character that has diplomacy, which I would run quite often because diplomacy also gives you the materials you want for things like biochem,
Right.
the purple mats for
Yeah, the
biochem.
rares and purples.
I'd run both the dark side and light side, so I'd keep bouncing. I leveled the character as 10,000 light, and then I kept bouncing, below 10,000, back to 10,000, below 10,000, back to 10,000, and it would keep saying, "You must be very troubled. You are one troubled person."
Oh yeah, it's 10,000, not 5,000.
Another,
There's.
yeah, go ahead, because I'm gonna go
I
there.
was gonna say there's a legacy ability on a 5-minute cooldown that you get on the light side. It's Legacy of Unity, which reduces the damage that you and your companion take for 15 seconds, and you only have to be, like a little ways into light. You have to be like light instead of dark. It's not like a light. You don't have to have certain levels of it or anything
Right.
to have it. I always thought it was a legacy ability. I didn't realize Unity was tied to light dark, because all my characters are light and they all have Unity.
Right. Right. I too thought it was just some sort of legacy ability for the longest time. I think it is, And by that I meant, and I think that's what you mean too, just as we've leveled up characters or something. If you do go to
Yeah.
light 5 on one character and you're dark 5 on another character, they are legacy wide abilities though. So you could have both sacrifice. You could be using both sacrifice and legacy of unity, I believe.
Oh.
So there's that as
So
an option.
the dark side, on the other side, it's not like a mirror. It's a completely different talent. It's called sacrifice or ability, and it restores 40% of your health, but at the cost of 90% of your companion's health. So that seems appropriately dark.
Yeah, yeah, it does. I think in general, people think that the Legacy of Unity, the light side ability, is better, and
I
it
do,
does seem to be the case that it is better. But
because who wants a dead companion?
right, right, exactly. But it's only 90%. Well, I wonder if it's 90% of their remaining health or 90% overall. So if they're down 10%, they just die.
Oh, so it could never, yeah. Well, get some dark points and go do some science and get back to us on that.
I love to do science. There's there's also a vendor. There's two vendors on the fleet. So there's a light side vendor and a dark side vendor. So this is a little bit of some side perks. It's not a lot, but there are some examples in here, especially of both gear and items and some titles that you can only get if you're light side or dark side. So
And for a long time, that was the only way you could get, not the only way, but it was a good way to get relics as you were leveling before you got to end game content.
I'm looking now on this vendor though, and I do not see any relics. Did they take the relics
Oh,
off of those
they might
vendors?
have because there's other ways to get relics now.
So you used to have, as you leveled up, there used to be like a level 15, a level 25, and a level 35 little relic that were available on these vendors, and you had to have the appropriate light side dark side alignment to go to that vendor to get those relics. They weren't great. They were like on
They were
click
terrible.
relics.
They had like 7 endurance or something, but at least it was something to put in that slot.
It was also quite useful in PvP because you do not get any bolster if you do not have at least something in a slot. So putting any kind of relic
Oh,
in that slot gives you then the bolster bonus on top of that slot. So it was useful. They were useful back in the day. It was quite useful because that was the only way you could get early relics. Now there are a few other relics in the game. There was also always the relic cube, and I don't know if anybody bothers to construct their relic cube anymore. We should. I wonder if we ever did a podcast on creating
I
the
think we
relic
did
cube.
on the Relic Cube and some other things that are
I think we did.
old-fashioned now.
So if you go around to the datacrons, you can either get your bonuses to your stats, or you're picking up those relic shards. I think I have some in my so the matrix shards. The matrix shards are the things that you would assemble into your relic cube, and you could assemble them in different orders and create relic cubes at lower levels as well, and including when level 50 was the level cap, a good endgame relic for based on those relic shards, those matrix shards. So your matrix cube
I
was
see
interesting back in the day.
I see on this merchant too, you can buy a label for your stronghold
Yep.
if you're light side level 5 or above, which,
So some of
yeah.
this stuff, like for gear, for instance, there are a couple gear items. It's not a complete gear set, which would be slightly more interesting, but it's some moddable gear that you can get at lower levels that requires an alignment. So like these gloves, they have gloves on the vendor that require light 1, and they have some boots that require light 2 or above. If you drop below that light alignment, and you unequip that piece of gear, you won't be able to re-equip it. So you got to watch out for that. There are very few pieces of gear in the game, though, that have these alignments on them anymore. So the few that are on this vendor and a couple weapons and mostly some lightsabers around that still have that alignment, I think they come off of some of the planets earlier as parts of the class story, or as random world drops. But there are very few instances where you need to worry about it, so it's not something to be too concerned over. There's a light side and a dark side mount. So there's two versions of these Praxons. One for light 5, one for dark 5 that you might want to get. A couple decos that are specific to light side, dark side that are on each of those vendors. So that's potentially a reason to get one character, another reason to get one character to light 5 and at least one character to dark 5 as well.
Here's a little sand crawler. It's like a little toy.
Yeah,
Like a little, yeah.
mini sand crawler. That's pretty
Yep.
cool. On the dark side, you get the Sith lightsaber forge, the Praxon Xeno as the gloves. The little pet they have is a little interrogation droid, the floating interrogation droid ball from A New Hope when Darth Vader comes to talk to Princess Leia in the beginning of the movie. The little torture droid. So you can get one of those, and then again some of the gear and the label for your stronghold, the dark side deco that you can hang in your stronghold, hang off the wall. It's a little sign. So a few things there. So I see I have 0 of 0, but I guess I probably don't even have the light side one either. Another thing that would be interesting, that is interesting to quite a few people, is the dark side corruption. Now, if you go to Dark 5, your character has the option to turn on dark side corruption on your character sheet and show that corruption as you progress through the levels of Dark 1 through Dark 5. And it does get sort of more and more dramatic as you progress from Dark 1 to Dark 5.
Yeah.
There's no corresponding light side, anti-corruption, which now I think, yeah, that's a little bit of a loss. We should get really glowy or something as we become more and more.
Or get like a golden
aligned.
tiara that.
A halo and wings.
Mm-hmm.
So have you ever wanted to dark side corruption up your characters?
No, and I've never wanted to put the rack roll customizations on my companions either. It's just the.
Oh, see, I do like that.
I know you do. I know, and I'm not judging.
Just on Alara. I don't know why.
Just on Alara. I think I did put it on Theron.
Because it doesn't look good on
But that
Mako,
was-
but it looks good on Alara for some reason, and she looks in her zombie look. But it changes your skin tone, it changes your eye color, and it can give you sort of those corruption marks and veins and
Yeah,
and
you
stuff
do.
on your
You look
character.
corrupted. That's.
And you can shut it. You can turn it on or shut it off. If you look at your customization appearance tab, there's show dark side corruption checkbox. I do know a couple characters. I remember Danash used to go
Yep.
dark 5 always, so she could have that dark side corruption and be able to turn that on occasion. So that is quite interesting. Other differences. What are some of the other differences if you play? dark side, light
There's
side?
in your class story, you might get some slightly different conversations if you choose the, dark side versus light side choices. I guess. I mean, since I always choose the light side, I'm boring that way. The most notable difference is for the Sith warrior and his or her companion Jaisa, which there's actually two different versions of Jaisa, a light side version and a dark side version. And then her story branches. Like if you take her dark side, then she follows a different path than if you take her light side.
Right. It is. There's some dramatic differences in that story as a result, and there are achievements, I think, that go along
That's
with
right.
taking her light side or dark side.
They took Jaisa out of the loyalty of the Sith achievement, the meta achievement, because they didn't want to require people to have two Sith warriors so that they could have a light Jaisa and a dark Jaisa. However, the achievements are still in place for the light Jace and the dark Jace. So if you're a completionist, then you will have two Sith warriors, at least two. Because I mean, I've read of people that had two light side Sith warriors or two dark side Sith warriors, and then they found out about Jace achievements and had to do a third one.
Right. Right.
But
Exactly. And
I was watching the dark side Jace, part of the dark side Jace storyline on YouTube because I don't have a Sith warrior, obviously, that went dark side. Um, and it gave me, in a way, watching it gave me some thought too about another thing we've talked a lot about recently, which is choices matter. And I can totally see how if you're a writer and that you would feel that your choice of, light side Jace or dark side Jace really matters because it's really different how she talks, her view of the world is just really different. But to us as a player, she still has all the same abilities. She still does what she does, and you still do what you do. So we might be tempted to say your decision really didn't matter.
right.
So I think that's part of the gap
Right.
of the whole decisions matter thing is maybe we're not giving enough credit as players to, yeah, we'll say just a few different conversations, but it's different. It is different.
Right. That is part of that challenge for to prove that choices matter. The story is pretty different for how she, what she does and how she turns out as well. And then the flip side of that, the other challenge for the writers is if I just go light side and I play light side Jace and I go through, I may never know that there was a dark side Jace.
Mm-hmm.
I may
Right.
never know that there was even this option of this other choice. So yeah, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. And if they say choices matter, then choices matter, and I'll seek
Yeah.
out
I mean,
the places,
like
the
I
other
don't
sides of
consider
the story.
myself an RPer, but at the same time, I don't take dark side choices usually. So yeah, this stuff does matter to me.
Avast me hearties, hail and like well
Oh,
met and whatnot. See,
and whatnot.
I'm
Yeah.
an RPR, totally.
I'm gonna roll up a character and name her whatnot.
There are, as the chat room is reminding me, Peters is reminding me in the chat room, there are a couple differences in the way the Force users' stories on both sides end up and what the final wrap up of your third chapter
Mm-hmm.
looks like, whether you're dark side or light side. And this again touches a little bit on that RP and some of the classic RP story and legends, mostly legends stories in Star Wars right now of the dark side Jedi and the light side Sith. And I think there's even title differences for what title your Sith Lord gets called as you join the Dark Council and finish up your class story, depending on whether or not you're dark side or light side. So there are some impacts from that perspective as well. The concept of light side and dark side and dark Jedi and light Sith has existed throughout the extended universe in Star Wars for quite a while. And one of the prime examples of this playing with the themes of dark side, light side is, of course, Revan.
Yeah.
So Revan was, he was light 5, and then he went to dark 5, and then he went to sort of, back to the middle. And then spoilers, Shadow of Revan. Then he split and had like the light 5 part and the dark 5 part both out at the same time.
And they fight.
And they fight. Round 1, fight, light side, dark side. And then they merge back together and get all gray again. So that playing with the idea of light side, dark side, of course, is key to start the Star Wars universe in general. Even as we're seeing in the new movie, the idea of where the awakening of both the dark side and the light side, and where that's going to fall, and who's light side and dark side, and how dark side really is Kylo Ren, and is Snoke's really dark or light, or is he more gray, or trying to play both sides or use the power of both sides? There's a lot of that still going on. So it's a fun thing to play with and think about for your character. It's pretty intrinsic to the Force characters, I think, but you can
Yeah.
still sort of think about it and play it in all of the characters and the bounty hunters and the troopers and that kind of thing as well.
Yep.
What about some of the old school light side dark side stuff which doesn't matter anymore? Do you remember back at launch when crystals had a light side dark side
I do
alignment
not.
requirement?
Yeah, when you mentioned that earlier today, I'm like, really?
Yeah.
There were restrictions on some color crystals.
And in particular red. So red, well, it was red and blue.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Yeah.
You had to be at least dark 1 or dark 2 or something to even be able to use a red crystal in your lightsaber. And same thing, you had to be like light 1 or light 2 to be able to use a blue lightsaber in your crystal.
I would not be against that if they wanted to do that again, actually. I mean, I think that's kind of a cool
It
immersive thing.
it was pretty cool. I liked the idea, and I get that there was plenty of Sith, light side Sith that wanted the red crystals still, and that's why they opened it up and they changed it. And especially they went to the cartel market and made tons
Yeah,
of
I mean, they
kinds
had
of
to,
crystals
right?
available, and started making like the magenta. The magenta crystal was the first cool one that was out in the game even before cartel market and all that. But that idea of the dark sides, you have the red sabers and the light sides have the blue sabers, and even in the original trailer when they crash that shuttle into the Jedi temple and the back opens up and all of those red lightsabers
And all the red lightsabers. Yeah.
I mean that's
That's awesome.
pretty interesting. So you don't have those restrictions anymore on the color crystals, certainly. You mostly don't have any of those restrictions on the weapons or gear, so you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff anymore either. All right, so how do we get these light side, dark side points, Seema?
So you accumulate them sort of naturally as you go through the class story, and you can make an effort to always pick the light side option or always pick the dark side option if you want to. But a lot of people do play like a neutral class story where they pick some light side and some dark side. And by the way, I believe it's configurable in your interface to show whether it's a light side or a dark side answer. So you can turn that off if you want to, actually, I think. You can just play and answer. My early characters, I was very, very, very careful to always answer the light side way. My characters, over time, I've gotten very, I just want to play the game and answer the way I feel that my character would answer, and then, let the pixie sticks fall where they may. So class story is one way. To me, the easiest way is diplomacy, because you can rack up a lot of light side or dark side points with diplomacy if you want to do it that way. And then in flashpoints, there's usually always at least one question in a flashpoint, and some flashpoints have two questions that give light side or dark side points. And what a lot of people do is they solo Black Talon or Essless, which is the first flashpoint on either side. Essless being the pub side, Black Talon being the imp side. It's also a good way to get rep for your starter companion too. If you want to build up some rep for your Sages Kaizen Fest or your Inquisitors Kimval, you could do that by running Black Talon or Essless repeatedly in solo mode. But yeah, so those are the main ways.
Now, you used to, on most of your characters, roll diplomacy early on, wouldn't you, Seema?
I know people have done that where they just roll diplomacy. You just keep it temporarily and run enough missions to get your diplomacy to get your light side or your dark side to where you want it, and then you re-roll to whatever crew skill you really wanted.
Right. Yeah, and then you can drop it later.
Mm-hmm.
I think I even did that on a couple characters as I was leveling up in the early days, and dropped it later. But now, since it doesn't matter, it doesn't make all that much of a difference, I mostly just ignore it. In fact, a lot of the newer characters that I have probably aren't even, I wouldn't even know what how light they are. I just take the light side choices, And I come to them in flashpoints or in the story, and so I'm probably like light 4 or light 3 on a couple of them, and not yet even light
I
5.
think the only person who would really care about their levels of light and dark would be the person who wants their Sith corruption to show on their complexion. That would be the biggest thing, I would think.
Right, right. Or wanting to see the story through and see what how those
Yes.
choices sort of turn out. Who, how many people you shoot in the face when you pick the dark side choices every time. There was a question in the forums that I saw, or either in the forums on Reddit, where people were concerned if I'm Dark 5 or I'm Light 5 and I get into Knights of the Fallen Empire, will that either limit or change what I will experience in Knights of the Fallen Empire? And I think the answer is pretty much no. You will still be able to play through everything you would expect. You still, though, have some, relatively light side, dark side choices and dialogue that you can take within Knights of the Fallen Empire, though, as well. I know, like the inspiring speech that you can give when you first get your Odessan stronghold. It can either be a rousing, inspiring speech or a threatening, intimidating speech, depending on how you roll and how you want to play that one. There's a couple good threads you can seek out for people sort of throwing other ideas back and forth. I think we've covered most of them, but if you look up light side, dark side, neutral on Reddit or just do a Google search, I saw an old guide, but on 10 Ton Hammer there was a guide that how it worked at launch. It's interesting to look through those and read through and hear a little bit about how it sounded at the beginning and the reality of where it's at now. One thing that people have always asked all along, and maybe we'll wrap up with this, and I've tried to play a couple of characters this way, is there's no benefit to being gray, to being sort of balanced or a 0 or, both light and dark.
Right.
But people have always wanted that. They've said,
Right.
okay, there's bonuses. There's a dark side vendor, light side vendor. There's bonuses to going either full dark or full light. What about us, our people that are either RPing as gray or like walking that line in the middle? What is that enough, Seema? Would you go gray on a character instead of dark 5?
I would for a title.
I would for
The gray title.
Oh, there's also that. I guess I should be going after that, shouldn't I?
Yeah. Max the Gray would be awesome.
I
Max the Gray, the Gray.
the Max the Gray. Yes. Yeah. When I did start I've started a couple characters at least where I've played as gray. So I did try to play through, at least trying to sort of be agnostic to the outcomes and play it from the
Right.
perspective of the RP I had in mind was I'm just trying to be as ruthlessly efficient as possible, and sometimes that's a light side choice and sometimes it's a dark side choice, but it's whatever's going to get me through. I'm not going to go out of my way to go kick those puppies, to do that dark side because it's out of my way. So, forget that. But I'm also not going to go out of my way to walk around you. I'd rather just shoot you in the face and step over your corpse. Because again, I'm just, ruthless efficiency. And the agent is one where I at least started that way. I think I ended up going light eventually because I wanted to see where some of that story went on the light side. But that's a kind of character where I could really see, agent, maybe smuggler, but really in the agent seemed like a good opportunity to either to sort of go gray and walk that line. That ruthless efficiency of the secret agent seemed like a good point where you could make those kinds of choices.
I played my operative, you may be shocked to hear this, as a light side agent, but I feel like the light side version of the operative is pretty gray. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a perspective thing.
Well, I guess that's one other last point is the Imperial. So don't confuse Light and Dark with Imperial and Republic. There's still stories going on in Imperial Republic as well. And the Imperial choices of Light and Dark are sort of like the lesser of two evils is the light side. choice, and the darker of two evils is the dark side choice. It's do you euthanize the puppies before you throw them out the airlock, or throw them out the airlock live? Because that's your light side dark choice side choice right there. So there's also that to keep an eye on as well. And that was one of the reasons in the very beginning I went Republic and left the Imperial side.
And there's some light side choices too that are very tough. Were very tough for me to make. Like the light side choice would be let the mass murderer go free so that he could go and kill again. He's gonna go kill those puppies.
Right. So there's that kind of thing to consider too, which is pretty interesting. So it's not a big deal, but it is in the game. It would be interesting if they picked it back up and did something interesting with it again in the future. I think they've sort of dug themselves or let themselves drift far enough from it right now where they won't be doing that anytime soon. So I don't think you would need to worry. But it's almost a shame that they haven't. So I'll sort of maybe just leave it at that. And now I'll make.
And I guess my final.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say my final thought on that is if you are playing through the class story for the first time, or you just came back to the game, or you just started the game, I would say answer the questions that take the story in the direction that's interesting to you, and don't be concerned with light side versus dark side. There's no compelling like game advantage one way or the other, or to being completely one way or completely the other way. So go for it.
Yep. Yeah, that's really good advice. Just go for it. Have fun with it. See where it takes you. Well, I'm gonna make my my neither dark nor light side choice to shove this astromech into the escape pod. So EPC 144 here is ready to head out and broadcast this episode to all of you. Thanks everyone for joining us on newoverlords.com, iTunes, YouTube, or live on Twitch. We will stream again next Tuesday night after our mandatory fun night here on twitch.tv/newoverlords around 10:15 or 10:30 p.m. Central. Please follow us on Twitter at MaxTheGray and at AISEMA. Please subscribe on YouTube, and you can also check us out in the Reddit thread where we post our podcast weekly as well. And as always, we would love for you to come find us on Jedi Covenant and ask us for an AIE Guild invite, and we will get you all set up there too. We will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.